I hope everybody's doing well. So this is a joint effort with Daniel Cox and Margaret Ellen Messenger, and we've been running these talks. Many of you have been to almost all of them every 2 weeks or so over the spring, summer. The aim is to bring you short talks by experts in graph searching. And just some bookkeeping, like I've seen most people doing it already, just if everybody could mute their audio and video during the talk to preserve bandwidth. And also if you have questions, you can ask those at the end. So today we're excited to bring you Nicholas Nysa from INRIA Sophia Antipolis. Nicholas's research interests are in pursuit evasion games, distributed algorithms, graph theory, and communication networks. He's worked extensively in graph searching, focusing on cops and robbers and its variants, eternal domination, and the surveillance game. He's published over 60 papers in leading journals and proceedings, served on many conference committees, and supervised 7 doctoral students and counting, and over 25 master students and undergraduate research internships. So Nicholas is going to speak today on the localization games in graphs. So I'll turn it over to you, Nicholas.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the introduction. And thank you for organizing all this seminar. So, okay, I will just turn off my video and start. I hope. Tell me if you can not see or if there is a problem. So as Anthony said, I will speak about localization games in graphs. So what I will try to do is mostly a survey of several variants of these games. And as it's written here, I will mostly give the results without proofs and focusing on open questions. And I hope you will be interested to work on these questions. And several results I will present are based on joint work with all these people here. Basically, there are Brazilians, there are Polish people, French people, of course, and Fionn, who is plenty of nationality, who is here. Okay, so let's start. What is it about? Oops. So you all know that in a plane, if you want to locate something in a plane, you can just fix 3 points, let's say A, B, C in the plane, and any point of the plane is uniquely determined by its distance to these 3 points. Okay, for each vertex is sufficient. For each point, it's sufficient to have the distances to the 3 points. So that's a triangulation, classical triangulation, and the question is how to generalize this to graph metrics. And that's here that metric dimension appears. So assume that you have a target that is hidden in some graph, at some vertex in the graph. And what you can do to find this target is to probe vertices. When you probe a vertex V, for instance, what you receive in return is the absolute distance between this vertex V that you have probed and the target that you are looking for. Here, absolute means nothing. You will see later why I insist on absolute, but it's just the distance. And basically, you will not probe only one vertex, but a set of vertices, V1 to Vi. And what you hope is that the distances to, from the target to all of these vertices, V1 to Vi, these distances allows you to uniquely determine the position of the target. So more precisely, a resolving set is a subset of vertices, V1 to Vi, such that any vertex V of the graph is uniquely determined by its distances to each of the vertices of the resolving set. So let's start with a small example. So for instance, in a path here, you can probe one vertex A here. If you probe this vertex, this central vertex here, you see that it is the only vertex at distance 0 from itself, so we can identify it. But there are conflicts here because these 2 vertices, for instance, are at the same distance to A, distance 1. So you cannot distinguish them. Same for the 2 ends of the path. So what you can do, a better solution would be to probe one end of the path. And here you see that all vertices are uniquely defined by their distance to this vertex A. Okay, so let's do another example, simple example. In the cycle, if you probe only one vertex, A again in red, again there are conflicts. These 2 vertices, its 2 neighbors are at distance 1, we cannot distinguish them. Same for these 2 vertices. And in any cycle, it's symmetric, so you cannot resolve conflicts by just probing one vertex. So what you do is you can probe two vertices, A and B, and now you can see that each tuple here, so for instance, this tuple, in red, it is the distance of this vertex to A, and in blue, it is the distance from this vertex to B. And you can say that, you can see that all vertices have distinct tuples, so they can all be distinguished by the distance to these two vertices. For instance, this guy here is the only vertex at distance 1 to A and distance 2 to B. Another last example, simple example, in a star, for instance. Oops, what happened? Okay. In a star, it's easy to see that if there are at least two leaves that you don't probe, they will be at same distance to any other vertices any other vertex that you will have probed. So in a star, you have to probe at least every leaf but one. And actually, it's sufficient. If you probe 4 vertices here, all leaves but one, you can see that all tuples are distant. So you can distinguish any vertex just by its distances to A, B, C, and D. And I guess, I think you have guessed that what we want is to find a resolving set of minimum size. And the metric dimension of a graph that I denote by MD of G here is precisely the minimum size of a resolving set in G. So it's easy to see that you can always, it's well defined, you can always have a resolving set by probing all vertices but one. So this parameter, this notion has been widely studied. There are several graph classes for which it is well understood. For instance, in trees, it's completely well understood, and it's easy to see that you can characterize the metric dimension of a tree as a number of leaves and some number of branching nodes. It's not exactly branching nodes, but okay, it's an easy exercise to try to understand this. I will not go into the detail. A lot of work on this parameter has been done about complexity. So it's NP hard, NP complete to compute this parameter in planar graphs. It's W2 hard. On the other hand, it's FPT in some parameter like tree length. So there are a lot of work about complexity for this parameter, and a lot of work in different graph classes like hypercubes, random graphs, and so on. Okay, so here is the first variant of the game where when you probe one vertex, you are given the absolute distance between the vertex you have probed and the target that you are looking for. There is a second variant that I want to mention already now. Is what is called centroidal dimension. So in this second variant, now you have to probe two vertices. When you probe two vertices, A and B, what you are given is not the distance of A and B to the target, but you are just allowed to know whether A is strictly closer from the target than B, or A is strictly further from the target than B, or A and B are equal distance to the target. You don't know their distance, but you just know their relative position with respect to the target. That's why I call this version relative distances, or relative position, by opposition of the absolute distances previously. So just the same examples, I will not go maybe, so if you take the path, before, with the absolute distance, with the metric dimension, you remember I can probe just one vertex, A, and I can distinguish all vertices of the path. For the centroidal dimension, in the path of length 5, first for any path, you can easily check that you have to probe both ends of the path. And in this small path of length 5, you can check that if you only probe the two ends of the path, A and B, you cannot distinguish all vertices. So you have to probe another vertex. Here I choose C. So already it seems it's harder to distinguish, which is logical, but it's harder to distinguish vertices using this variant. For instance, in cycle you will need more than 2 vertices, and for the star you will need to probe all leaves. And again, what you want to find is the size of the minimum size of a centroidal basis. So centroidal basis is a pendant of resolving set, but in this version. And the minimum size of a basis of a basis in this variant. This is what is called the centroidal dimension of the graph. And again, there are several results on it about complexity. Again, it's NP complete. It even cannot be approximated to a factor log n, but there exists some kind of good approximation algorithm. But what I want to insist on here is that this parameter seems to be much more difficult to study than the previous one. For instance, in the path or cycle, it is known that the centroidal dimension of path of cycle is of order of square root of n, but the exact value of it is actually not known. Actually, I don't know much more results than this results about relative distance, about the centroidal dimension. So there are plenty of, I think, plenty of open questions here about other graph classes or anything. So in what follows, I will mostly speak about the absolute distance version, so the metric dimension version. But sometimes I mean, all the games I will present can be adapted both to metric dimension version and centroidal dimension version. So I will focus on metric dimension. Okay, so so far. To locate a target in a graph, what you can do is to probe several vertices, and you hope that you will find the target. What a generalization of this game has been introduced by Seeger in 2013, where instead of probing all vertices at once, what you can do is to probe one vertex at a time. Okay, at each turn you can probe one vertex. This vertex will give you its distance to the target, and then you can go on. So let's do this simple example. In this simple tree, I can probe the red vertex. So I'm receiving the information that the target is at distance 3. So I can already eliminate every gray vertices. Then I can, at the second turn, I can probe, let's say, the blue vertex. I learn that the target is at distance 4. And finally, I probe the green vertex, and I learn that the target is distance 2, and it remains here. It remains only one possible candidate, so the target is there. I didn't mention here the target is cannot move. At each step, it chooses a vertex at the beginning and stay where it is until the end of the game. Okay. So and you can imagine that. The goal here is to minimize the number of turns to locate an immobile target in G. Okay, so a funny thing that actually this game exactly represents this game, the game of Guess Who, that I hope you all know. So you have a set of characters. You have two players, the red and the blue. Each player chooses one character. So here the blue player chooses this girl with a hat. Probably it is this one. And then by asking questions, each player tries to guess which character has been chosen by the other player. Okay, I hope you know this game. And actually you can represent this game as a graph, as a bipartite graph like that, almost bipartite graph, where one part is the set of characters. The second part is the set of questions that you can ask. The kind of question is, does your character have a mustache, or is the girl, is the boy, and so on. And of course, you add links between a character and a characteristic when the character has this characteristic. And for technical reason, you add one universal vertex that sees everyone. And now the game is exactly, the game of Guess Who is exactly the sequential metric dimension game defined by Seeger. For instance, when you ask, first it's easy to see that it's always better to probe one vertex that is a characteristic. So probing one vertex that is a characteristic, like mustache, corresponds to ask, does your character have a mustache? If the distance in the graph to the character is 1, like here, it's similar to the answer yes. if the distance between the characteristic and the character that you have chosen, so the target, is 2, I remind you that there is a universal vertex, it corresponds to the answer no. And so what you want is to probe the minimum number of vertices, so to ask the minimum number of questions to guess the character of the other player. So to guess where is the target. It's exactly the same game. Okay, so that's for the game when you can probe one vertex per turn. And what we propose is to generalize this by giving the possibility to probe several vertices by turn. So now we are given 2 integers, k and l. At each turn, you can probe k vertices in a graph G. And the question is whether you can locate the immobile target in G in at most L turns. Okay. And what you want, in other words, what you want is to minimize the number of turns to locate the target, probing k vertices per turn. And we denote by lambda k of G this minimum number of turns when you can probe k vertices per turn. Okay, so now we generalize a bit the game. It's easy to see that actually lambda k of G is at most upper bounded by the metric dimension of G divided by k. Of course, if you have an optimal resolving set, so a resolving set of size MD of G, of size metric dimension, you can just probe sequentially all the vertices of this set. So it will take you this number of turns, since you can probe k vertices per turn. And once you have done that, then you have the same information as if you probe the resolving set in one turn. So it will give you the position of the target. But so, for instance, here in this graph, you can check that the metric dimension is 19. The minimum resolving set here is depicted in red. So if I give you k equals 4, so you can probe 4 vertices per turn, this trivial upper bound gives you that you can do it with at most 5 turns. But actually, you can do much better. If you can probe 4 vertices per turn, you can first probe the corners, the 4 corners here. So if the target is in the center, it is immediately located. Otherwise, it means that, for instance, it will be in this set of white vertices. And now what you can do is just to probe these 4 vertices here, and that will give you the position of the target. So if you probe 4 vertices per turn, you can actually do it in this graph in 2 turns. And okay, so this upper bound, this trivial upper bound, can be arbitrarily far from the optimal solution. So here are some of the results that we obtained. So we were mostly interested by the complexity of computing this parameter. And what we prove is that if you fix k, so for instance, I tell you you can probe 3 vertices per turn, then minimizing the number of terms is NP complete, even in graph with dimension 2. On the other hand, if you fix L, so if I give you 10 terms, minimize the number of vertices that you have to probe each turn. If you want to find the target in 10 turns, then this problem is also NP complete. But actually, if you fix both k and l, there is an algorithm in n to the O of kl. So if k and l are fixed, the problem becomes polynomial. And the first open question here is whether it could be FPT. So can we separate the dependency of k and l from the side of the graph? Also, for the relative distance variant, if you fix k and l, we don't know the complexity of the problem. And since other question is what about other particular graph classes like planar graphs? Is it NP complete in planar graphs? Actually, it is because, as I will show you in the next slide, because next what we were interested in were in trees. And in trees, we prove that the problem is NP complete when k and l are part of the input, are both part of the input. And what we prove is that actually in trees, it's NP complete to compute, to decide whether the minimum number of terms is at most L when you can probe k vertices per turn. But we prove that we design a +1 approximation to compute this parameter. And moreover, moreover, so there is a +1 approximation, and moreover, if k is fixed, then the problem becomes polynomial in trees, because there will be n to the k+1 log n algorithm. So before to give you just a very few hints of the proof of these results, because there are a few things that are interesting, I hope. Open question here would be to find a FPT algorithm for trees to make to separate the dependency here between n and k. And other interesting question would be to find other exact or approximation algorithm in other graph classes for this problem. So here the next slide is the only slide with proof in my talk. Just to try to give you an hint, it's not really a proof, but it's a remark of the previous result. We prove that the problem is NP complete in trees. If I give you k and L to decide if you can find the target in at most L turns, probing k vertices per turn. But actually what we prove is that it is only the first turn that is difficult. What is difficult is to decide which vertices you will probe during the first turn. On the other hand, if I give you the first turn, then the problem becomes polynomial. And that's why this gives a +1 approximation. Because actually the +1 approximation is something like, at the first turn, you probe any vertex, any arbitrary vertex. And then from this turn, now you can have an optimal solution. So the only turn that you will have lost is the first one. So this explains the +1 approximation. And actually the algorithm, polynomial algorithm, when k is fixed that I mentioned before, is just that if k is fixed, you can just try all possible first term. Okay, that if k is fixed, you have n to the k possible first term. You can just try all of them, and for each of them, you do the optimal algorithm. Okay, that's just what I wanted to say about that. Okay, so far the target was immobile, could not move. What about a mobile target? So now the game evolved as follows. At the beginning, the target chooses an unknown vertex as before, and at each turn, the player can probe k vertices. So either you play with the absolute or distances variant, or with the relative distances variant. But anyway, in both versions are possible. But once the player has probed the vertices, either he locates the target, otherwise the target may move to an adjacent vertex of its current location, and then the game is repeated. Okay. The game is quite different for the following reason. Before, if you can probe one vertex per turn, if the target is immobile, for sure you will be able to locate the target eventually, because it's sufficient to just probe every vertices, for instance. Now it's not clear that with probing one vertex per turn, it's possible. So before, remember in the triangle, if the target is immobile, if you probe one vertex here, from the red one, so if the target was there, you find it immediately. If the target is there or there, what you can do is probe the second red vertex here. Here, either you find the target, or you know that the target is on the other side. Now, when the target is moving, when you probe one vertex here, if the target is either there or there, the thing that at the next turn, since the target may have moved anywhere in the triangle, you come back to the initial problem. So probing one vertex per turn in a triangle does not allow you to locate the target. So now the question evolves as follows. The first question is now what is the minimum number of vertices that you have to probe per turn to be sure to be able to locate the target? And that's this parameter that is denoted by zeta of g. Zeta of g is the minimum number of vertices that you have to probe in the absolute distance version, and with a star, it's in the relative distance version. So by definition, zeta of g is at most zeta star of g, since the relative distances version is harder. And here, so here I just remind what I said. Here are the results that I know about this version. So this version has been first studied by Seeger, who completely give a characterization of data of T for trees. It has most two. So in any trees you can just probe 2 vertices per term. And she characterized exactly the trees for which you need to probe 2 vertices per term. Then we prove some result of we prove that computing this parameter is NP-hard. A surprising result is that actually in the class of graphs that is obtained from any tree plus 1 vertex, in trees the parameter zeta is bounded by 2, but if you just add 1 vertex plus any edge that you want, then the parameter becomes unbounded. And other reasons both mentioned, for instance, other graph classes that has been studied, outer planar graphs. We prove that zeta star is at most 3, and Anthony and Bill prove that for the absolute distance version, zeta of G of outer planars is at most 2. So they could improve this bound. So as open question here, first open question is, what about zeta star of G in outer planar? Is it 3 or could it be decreased to 2? I think it could be decreased to 2, but I couldn't. What about other graph classes? And coming back to the sequential version of game, here we just focus on the number of vertices to be probed each term, but it would be nice to have trade-offs between the number of vertices to be probed and the number of steps to locate the target, the moving target. Okay, so we are arriving almost at the end, but I would like to mention a last version of the game in oriented graphs. So in oriented graph, an orientation of a graph G, I remind you, is that you choose 1 direction for each edge, but exactly 1 direction. So you cannot have 2 cycles, the cycles of length 2, with two arcs. So here we can just redefine the metric dimension. Here we need to define what is the result of probing a vertex. So probing a vertex V gives you the directed distance from V to T. Here, of course, it's not symmetric anymore. And the other remark I want to do is that a priori, there could be vertices that are at infinite distance one from each other. And here we can use this information. So for instance, if you probe if you have 2 vertices A and B, and that the target is at sorry, if you have a vertex A in your Ionic set and two vertices V1 and V2, if V1 is at infinite distance from the vertex you have probed and V2 is at finite distance from the vertex you have probed, you can distinguish both of them. So here there are some results, some upper bound. Again, it's NP-hard, even NP-hard in DAGs. And that several graph classes have been studied, like complete graph, Cayley digraphs, oriented trees, and so on. But what we were interested in is what we call worst and best orientation metric dimension in graphs. So given a class of graphs or a graph, what we would like to know is what a non-directed graph, what is, can we find an orientation of this graph such that the directed metric dimension of this graph of this orientation is as small as possible. And that's what we call the best orientation metric dimension of this graph or of this class of graphs. And on the other hand, we could be interested by finding the worst orientation, an orientation that maximizes the metric dimension of the graph. Just to give you a small example, since the time is going on, for the class of Hamiltonian graphs, it's always possible to find an orientation for which the metric dimension is exactly 1. What you do is you just take your Hamiltonian cycle and you orient all arcs, all edges in the direction of this Hamiltonian cycle, and all other arcs, all other edges are oriented backtrack in this cycle. And so you can see that probing just one vertex A here, all vertices are at distance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, and so can be distinguished. Okay, so in any Hamiltonian graph, you can find an orientation for which the metric dimension is 1. And so what we got several results. I will maybe go a bit faster now. We bound the worst metric dimension in several graph classes, like a graph with maximum bounded degree in grids. And also for trees, we completely characterize, or more or less completely characterize, the worst orientation and best orientation of trees, and we prove that we can compute them in linear time, actually. So here again, there are several open problems, like close the gap in all these graph classes. Here you see that we have lower bound and upper bound, but the gap is still wide. And I don't know any work on the sequential version of metric dimension in oriented graph, where you can probe vertices term by term. So there are plenty of work to be done here, I hope. Okay, so that's the conclusion now. I just recap all the open problems I mentioned, but probably there are many more. And I would just like to thank you. And just before to go to the question, I just want to advertise a bit Grasta events that should have been done last 2 months ago. But okay, due to the context, it has been postponed to next year. So I have booked for this date. So I hope you will be there. And yeah, if you are not already in the mailing list, you can send me an email if you are interested. Thank you.
Great, Nicholas. That was